we are going to be going live here shortly with a friend of mine who you've actually probably seen on TV, but not like you saw with Kelly being on TV. As you know, all week long, I'm doing a lot of different interviews with people to talk about their most memorable animal encounter, but I also like to talk about how they're handling life changes with the pandemic and what they might want to say about Endangered Species Day, which was actually yesterday now. So it's funny. I started these with the idea that they'd rolled Endangered Species Day and we'd be done, but they became very popular and people want to do them and be a part of them. So here we are past Endangered Species Day, but it doesn't mean we won't talk about the need for taking care of our endangered species. So with no further ado, Corbin joins here shortly. Got that set up, waiting for his response. Here we go. Have to adjust the camera once we go to the split screen. Here, connecting. There he is, and he brought a friend.
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going very well, Corbin. How about yourself?
I'm doing so good. This is Sydney, by the way. He's a Wuma python, and I figured I might as well just bring Sydney and just say hi.
Well, that's perfect. I love it. I have no problem with snakes, and hopefully anybody watching does not have a problem with snakes. But before we jump into all the animal stuff, let's talk a little bit about, I know, so for those who don't know, you have pretty much surrounded yourself with animals since childhood. Your very first time presenting on a national stage, you were how old?
I was 14.
14 years old on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno back in the day.
Yeah.
And your role pretty much now, you are a spokesperson like many of us, professing the beauties of wildlife and animals and the awesome facts about them. But you don't really have to drive to your zoo like some of us do, and you might be dealing with different things with the quarantine. So let me ask you this, like I ask everybody else, how has this pandemic kind of changed or maybe not changed your way of life?
Man, it's changed a lot, Rick. And by the way, thank you for doing this and spreading awareness. I'm a huge fan of your content. So inviting us on, I was so excited. I was like, oh, absolutely. So thank you. It's
You're
literally
welcome.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I love all the work you do. So, for those of you wondering why I have all these animals, the majority of my animals are rescue reptiles, and so a lot of them are former pets. People, basically, maybe the reptiles got too big, too aggressive, and so we live out here on our reserve, 5 acres along the Snake River in Idaho. So I take care of pythons, we have alligators, tortoises. Some of the animals that I brought on to the Tonight Show with Jay Leno at 14, I still have to this day. So, but yeah, so I don't have to drive to the zoo. I live with the animals. It's 24/7. But a lot of people ask me, and by the way, you probably get this too, because you do a lot of TV. A lot of people might think like you're super rich from appearing on TV. Have you gotten that before?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I think it's an assumption, but no, we just get our day wages.
Exactly, right? And I think we all do it just for the passion. So a lot of people ask me, well, how do you make money? So I basically appear throughout the country at speaking engagements, locally here in Idaho in the Treasure Valley. We do a lot of educational shows at like Boise State University, schools and libraries. Well, because of the coronavirus, everything has been completely postponed or canceled. And I'll tell you what, that's how I support the animals. So I think a little bit of panic, but instead of like being like, okay, what are we going to do? I kind of took a deep breath and thought, what about virtual shows? And that's what we're doing now. And I'm doing, virtual shows. I started a late night show, which I'd love to have you on one day if you're up that late. Seriously, Animal Nights Live. We just filmed our 8th episode in our 8th week. It's every Thursday night, airing live on my IG and Facebook. But I basically took this as an opportunity to just expand awareness about animals and interact with people. It's such a fun community, which I'm, as you know.
Right. Well, good for you for adapting. That's quick thinking to be able to go from doing, live presentations throughout your region where you live and even some national shows to figuring out, okay, what else can I do? And you've adapted to doing those live IGs and the Facebook shows. So good for you, man. That's awesome.
How are you doing? Do you miss like TV?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. So when this all happened on my end, we were in the process of filming the 2nd season of the Animal Planet show that's taking place on the San Diego Zoo and the Safari Parks properties, and I'm a big part of that. I'm with them every day, helping them coordinate everything and all that, and that just stopped. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, well, just gonna be a couple weeks, and then I was like, no, it's gonna be a couple more weeks, and it's like, and here we are, I think at week 9 or 10, I don't know, it's all blurred together. So we're still doing a lot of work. So we kind of like you did, we shifted. filming stopped for the Animal Planet program. So with San Diego Zoo, myself and my team member who were working the Animal Planet stuff, we shifted out over to our social media team. And so we've been doing a lot of work helping out and supporting on the social media side, because really, like you, the only way we can reach our audience now, because we can't host them or go to them physically, is right here doing social media. And what a blessing to have this technology in this at this time, so we can leverage that.
I was thinking that the other day, what would we have done in this pandemic? Because I feel like, I mean, yes, we are isolated, but I'm talking to you. We have people all around the world watching. I feel like it's not, I mean, it could definitely be a lot worse for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just, I can't even, I don't even know what we'd be able to do without the technology to help us at least reach people. And honestly, I got a wonderful message yesterday after doing my live like this with Jordan. Someone had sent me a message back commenting on the work we've done on the Safari Park social media page, but also that interview, saying it is so nice to have that connection, to be able to see you guys, listen to you guys, and talk about the wildlife, because I miss it so much. You know, the audiences who miss what we do are at least able to be there, and they appreciate it as much as we appreciate having that outlet. So that works out nicely. Oh, Jordan, or no, Corbin, you froze. Uh-oh. Corbin, if you can hear me, we can't hear you, at least not on my end. Anybody who's watching right now, post a comment if you can see or hear him. Right now, he's frozen on my screen. Oh, I got you now.
Rick, I totally pulled a Kelly Ripa. I'm so sorry.
I was about to say, we learned with Kelly, if you log off and log back in again, it works.
I just did that, and it's so funny. I went on prior with my followers, and I was like, I cannot, freeze during this interview because this is so important to me. And then, of course, I'm just like, ah.
Yeah, well, as much as we love technology, it doesn't always love us back. So that happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you once again for having me on, and I'm just thrilled. And I love that you're providing stuff for endangered species. Like, a lot of people don't realize, this is an endangered species in parts of its range, the Wuma python, which a lot of people don't think of, reptiles and stuff like that. So thank you for giving me the platform to raise awareness.
Of course, of course. And speaking of a platform to raise awareness, one of the reasons I decided to initially start doing this was because someone had said to me, they had a fun story they wanted to share with me about an animal encounter. I was like, well, that's kind of fun. That's a neat angle where you and myself and people in our realm, we have encounters with animals all the time. We know how special that is. And sometimes I think we forget to share that story with our audience, because sometimes a really good story about an animal encounter is enough to get them interested in the animal we're talking about, or what we do for a living, or at least listen to other stories about conservation. So as we were heading into Endangered Species Day, I was getting people to talk about unique or their most memorable animal encounter. Now we're past Endangered Species Day, but it's still kind of a focus, still a back focus, that we want to talk about these encounters, but also I'm going to end with talking about, care for our wildlife in general. But yes, the whole reason you're here, the whole reason I'm doing these, Corbin, I'm asking everybody I know and in our realm and beyond, what in all the animals you've come across and all the things you've done, what was your most memorable animal encounter?
Well, and by the way, can I apologize first? Because you said, can you send me one picture of the encounter? And then this morning, I'm like, boom, 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 boom. I sent you a lot of photos. Honestly, Rick, it has to take place in Africa. And and I feel like with everyone you've had on, which I love the guests you've had on, big fans of all of them, I feel like it doesn't take a long time to think of your favorite encounter. Like, I thought of it instantaneously, like, ooh, Africa, 100%. And that was my first trip to Africa, to Kenya, to the Masai Mara, which is just, so I grew up in Idaho in a little cabin in the middle of the woods. I mean, super isolated, Roby Creek, Idaho. I had no friends. I mean, my sister was my only friend, but we didn't get along. So I was always out catching snakes and frogs and salamanders. But I always dreamed of going to Africa, watching those Nat Geo shows. But for a kid in Idaho, it seems really unrealistic. You think, really, could that really happen? And it did. I graduated from Boise State University with a degree in biology, so go Broncos. And they offered a program after I graduated. One of the professors offered a program to go to Africa, to Kenya, to study East African raptors, because they're in a serious crisis. Vultures, as you know, and that's a whole different discussion, but they're just disappearing due to poisoning, human-animal conflict. And so they had this opportunity. And I always tell people now who reach out to me, because I have my podcast, Animals to the Max, and people are always like, how do you get involved? How do you travel? And I always say, like, use the resources you have. And usually universities will offer, study abroad programs for like
Right.
really, really, really reduced rates. I mean, for you to go. And that's how we were able to go. And it was 2012. And so for those of you, have you been to the Masai Mara?
I was actually just north. I spent a lot of time just north of Masai Mara. I was at Lewa and the Samburu Reserve. So similar yet different, just on the northern side and then Opejda too, because I went and saw the white rhinos out there. So, but I have not been properly in the Masai Mara.
Yeah. So for those of you who are like, okay, what is this place? It's basically, it's East Africa, and you just imagine just, rolling hills, acacia trees. It is, I mean, when you think African safari, it's the Masai Mara, and it's the northern part of the Serengeti ecosystem. So it's actually just all part of the Serengeti. It's just north, and it has the highest concentration of predator and prey. So you're guaranteed almost to see lions, cheetahs, leopards, hyenas, everything. And honestly, our first day on safari, we didn't see hardly anything. I think we saw, dude, I know, right? We didn't even see lions, Rick. That's bad luck. If you're in the Masai Mara, they're known for lions, and we didn't even see lions. I was talking to my buddy Jerry, he's a safari guide. He's like, that's not good. So the second day, right? I love birds, God bless them, but can you please throw us a lion, Masai Mara? So the second day was our last full day on the Mara, and we were just searching for wildlife as you do on safari, and we saw vultures circling ahead, which great indicator that, oh my gosh, something's dead. And I know I hate to get excited about that. It's not good for the animal who died. But for, if you're on safari, yeah, right? Circle of life. Yeah, can we cue the music in? So it was so cool, man. So we saw vultures in the distance circling, a great indicator like, ooh, something died. It's probably a predator eating something. And so we went towards the vultures, and we were there to study vultures. So we were excited, but I was excited to see large predators. And then as we were driving, to go see what the vultures were circling over, we saw a lone hyena running in the distance towards the vultures in the same direction we were. And I don't know about you, but if you listen to my show or you know me, hyenas are my favorite animal. I don't know why, right? They're just so fascinating.
No, they are fascinating.
Dude, they're so fascinating. So we saw a hyena, so I'm of course like, oh, there's a hyena, right? So the hyena is literally parallel to us as we're driving towards the vultures, and we finally get to what the vultures were circling, and it was a dead hippo carcass.
Oh wow!
Now I love hyenas and hippos; they're my two favorite animals. But now don't worry, it wasn't too graphic. The hippo had been there for I think like 3 or 4 days. So
do you want to show one of those pictures? Yeah. I've got that one you sent me with the hyena.
Right there.
Oh, puts me in the carcass, but
look at that. And a vulture. We have a whiteback vulture. That's a whiteback vulture right there. Yep. And those are in serious trouble, by the way. But so we have a hippo carcass, and the hyenas were literally gnawing at the skin, and the skin was like, literally like at least 1.5 inches thick, if not more. It looked like jerky. So we're all focused on these two hyenas eating. And then I look off in the distance, and we're along the Mara River, and we see a lone bull African elephant, and there's crocodiles basking. And then, this sounds so made up, but I promise this is
this one.
Yes, look, yes. Look
Unfortunately, it puts me right on the elephant's trunk. You can't see it, unfortunately. There's water splashing. It's a very picturesque moment there, but I can't do anything about moving the photo. I don't think so.
This is Rick. It was like that was the lone bull elephant, and then I don't think you have a picture of this, but I also saw giraffes in the distance. The African Cape buffalo. And then, do you ever have that feeling that someone's like watching you?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Right? So we're all focused on the two hyenas, the vultures going to town, the African elephant, the buffalo giraffe. And I look behind us, and yeah, there's the vulture right there. That's a whiteback vulture. Isn't that beautiful? Right on the skull.
They're awesome birds. I love watching them fly.
Yeah. Just amazing.
But who was watching you? Who was watching you?
A lion. Look at that. So we literally finally saw the lion. I looked behind me. It was just, maybe less than 100 feet away. And Rick, it was one of those moments where it was so surreal. And I just stopped and was like, this is it. This is like the happiest moment of my life. I wanted to drop everything. I was like, I'm done with this TV thing. I'm done pursuing a career. Like, I just want to become a guide and move to Africa. And You know, and then obviously when I looked at the logistics, I can't leave behind 30 animals in the States. That's a
You have
responsibility.
responsibilities.
Yeah. But I was just like, that was it. I was hooked. I've never felt more at home in Africa. It was so innate. And I know that some
Yeah.
people, some scientists believe, you know, because we evolved from Africa, that there is this home feeling, you know, believe it, you know, I mean, whatever. I mean, if you don't believe it, that's fine. But for me, I was like, I'm home. Like
Yep.
I'm, you know, and I captured all of that and I put it up on YouTube, and I'll put links, I'll put clips of it on my story after we're done talking. And I was young,
Perfect.
so it's a young Corbin, like so excited, but yeah, I mean, that was my experience, man.
Well, I can definitely relate to what you're saying about that sense of I don't want to leave. My very first trip to Botswana or to Africa was to Botswana.
Wow.
And similar to your experience, when we, in the sense that my first time actually feet on the ground there, we didn't really see, I think we saw a couple of impala and a leopard tortoise because it was evening. We had landed late. We got picked up by the conservation team we were working with. They drove us out to there. And so we didn't really see a bunch there at first, and that was fine. Had a massive rainstorm that night. That morning, then it was just like heaven on earth. I mean, I didn't want to leave, and yet I had my responsibilities back home. But yes, I totally get what you mean. And then same thing happened the next time I went back to Africa to Kenya, and we were out first thing in the morning, first time in the truck, came around a bend, and it was just this sweeping landscape, and there were grevies and common zebras, and there was. Oh, gosh, I don't remember. There were so many different species, just this huge group grazing across this open plain. I was like, ah, so yeah, I totally get the sense of not feeling or feeling like you don't want to leave, feeling like you're just this is home for some reason. I've never been here before, but it felt like home. So yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there. I can totally relate to that moment where it's like, oh my gosh, everything's here right now and I just don't want to leave. So yeah, that is really cool.
Now, I have one question for you, and it's probably going to break my heart if you did see this animal. But the one animal that evaded me was the leopard. Did you see a leopard? That's the real question.
Okay, so here was the challenge I had when we were in the Samburu Reserve. Our teams were in two separate trucks. We were doing some
Uh,
filming and working with the researchers out there, and we were in two separate trucks. And one truck radios, "Hey, we got a leopard that's hanging out in a tree. Looks like he's just waking up." It was evening. It was starting to, the sun
uh,
was just beginning to set. So we start up the ravine to join the other truck, and on our route doing so, all of a sudden we spot two cheetah brothers
oh,
stalking something in the ravine. So the driver looks at us and goes, "So which spots do you want?"
yeah.
Referring to either, are we going to go see a leopard or go see the cheetahs hunt? And so we opted to watch the cheetahs hunt. And that was amazing. I had never seen cheetahs hunt in the wild before. And these two boys split the ravine. They were going after a dick, and they got it. But that
Oh,
caused us to miss seeing the leopard, which is something I've yet to see in the wild. So one of these days, I'll get to see a leopard in the wild.
oh my! They actually got it because their success
Oh
rate is
yeah.
super low. It's like 25 to
Oh
30, right? It's super low,
right.
right?
It was ridiculously low, and the terrain was not friendly for a cheetah. Being that it was a ravine, and the way the rocks were and everything else, cheetahs do best in that open, flat plain.
Yep, yep.
This Dick gave him a run, but because they were working both sides of the ravine like they were, I don't think that Dick felt it had really a good option to go anywhere. So it got confused, and they were able to get it. But it was crazy impressive. I've never seen anything like that before, and I will never forget that. That's for sure.
Wow. So we lined up. I went to Africa again that year because I was obsessed. Like I was like, I'm going back. I'm going to save my money. I'm going to do whatever I can to go back. And we lined up to try to watch a hunt with lions. Trying to stop wildebeest, and it was unsuccessful. And that happens. Most of the time, you don't get that Nat Geo moment where you see them take an animal down. So that's super lucky too.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy, pretty crazy. Well,
Yeah.
before we wrap up, we're almost at 20 minutes here. And I try to
Okay.
keep these around 20, but before we wrap up, my friend, uh, because all these interviews were leading into Endangered Species Day, of course, now we are past it, but it doesn't mean we don't want to talk about it. One thing I like to ask everybody, whether they're an animal person, a science communicator, or even just a TV personality, what's one thing that you, as someone from your position and your viewpoint on things, what would be something that you would want to say about endangered species or why it's relevant or perhaps an endangered species or something of that nature to a general audience? And I know that's something you normally do on a daily basis, so it probably is not too hard to think of something, but I always like to hear everyone's response because I know my voice and my stories, but I like to hear everyone else's too.
Well, I think that anyone can make a difference. And I think that sometimes it can be really, really overwhelming, but I think that anyone can make a difference and they have a voice. And now with social media, we're able to raise awareness about endangered animals and just animals in general and wildlife conservation. And so I think even telling a friend or sharing a link to support a nonprofit or even sharing this video right here, I mean, just using the tools you have, and you could start with conservation at a local level as well. But I think it's all about raising awareness. I also think, and I know this, I think it's important to be positive because, as you know, it can be pretty darn depressing. I was just looking at some African penguin numbers, which one of my favorite endangered species, and I literally have to update because they're one of the animals I bring on the Today Show the most probably, and I have to update my fact sheet because it's like every year.
Changing. Yeah.
Every year. I mean, my notes from 2016, 17, 18 are all different because the numbers keep on declining. So it can be depressing, but I think you can be positive, raise awareness, and you can even start at a local level. And I think it's great to support people, like myself and you and other people who use the platform to raise awareness for animals because we need more people like us out there for sure.
Well said, my friend. Well said. So anybody who is joining that is from my audience that does not already follow Corbin, I highly recommend as soon as we're done here, if you haven't already, start following his Instagram. And at Corbin, I'm assuming if they start following you on Instagram, they'll be able to find all the other work you're doing because you're pretty active there. You share a lot. I've been loving your stories too, where you've been sharing, building out for your alligator, right? You built out a whole facility for alligator. So it's not just, preaching animal stuff. Corbin really kind of gives you a behind the scenes look as what it's like to take care of all these animals and the responsibility that goes with it too. So I encourage you to follow him if you're not already, and keep up with his other content and all his adventures and what he's doing because it's really great stuff. And you've got your podcast and everything else. You've got the show you're doing now from Facebook and Instagram Live. So yeah, I mean, just keep doing it, man. It's great to see everyone doing all this hard work just in the name of the passion for the animals. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much. And I would love to get you back on the podcast because I think you were on last year and it was one of my favorite episodes. And it's very inspiring for people who want to get into the field. So Animals to the Max, it's available on all platforms and it's free. It's a free way. And you can literally Google Animals to the Max, Rick Schwartz, and it's free. And you can check it out. And it's a great way to kill time. So
yeah, we have a lot of that. So some people do it, yeah. All right. Well, Corbin, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and get you off the live here so you can get going, and I'm going to say goodbye to the rest of my audience. But yes, let's stay in touch and let me know when you need somebody on that podcast.
I will do that, and I'm literally just about to clean the alligator pool. So wish me luck, man. Seriously. That's
all right. Well, take your phone with you. Don't drop it in the water. Take your phone and do some stories so people who are new to following you can see what your life is like.
Awesome. All right, man. Take care. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Take care, man.
See ya.
Well, thank you all. I saw a lot of comments and fun things going on. Stephanie, I see you're in here. Looks like Amanda's in here. Megan's in here. We got all sorts of people that joined us throughout the talk with Corbin. Unfortunately, it was a little pixelated there at the beginning, and we lost audio and visual for a moment, but he came back and it was clear as can be. So I thank you all for sticking with us. As you know, if you've seen my previous lives that I've been doing this week leading into Endangered Species Day, I've also ended each one, let me adjust this a little bit. I've also ended each one talking a little bit about the importance of Endangered Species Day and the conservation work we do. I know you probably, if you're my fan, you hear me say that a lot and all the time. I talk a lot about that. I want to kind of piggyback on something that Corbin brought up. And it's something that maybe I don't think I've talked about recently that I'd like to kind of expand on. And so Corbin, thank you for the prompt on that. It's keeping hope. The numbers can be daunting, especially if you've been keeping track of them. You see numbers going down sometimes. The thing is that I'd like to remind people that these numbers, when they go down, are the challenges we hear about rhinos or elephants or penguins or whatever species it may be, even bees. Keep in mind that these challenges and problems this wildlife faces today are man-made or human-made problems and challenges, which means there are human-made solutions. And for as much as we hear about the bad things that happen and poachers doing things, we also need to remember there are teams and teams of people who are volunteering their time, spending their life out there dedicated to protecting wildlife. Whether it's something as simple as doing something like this, getting the message out to an audience on social media, or actively doing the conservation work. So please remember that. Remember there are people out there that you don't hear about doing the good work because it's not as dramatic for the news to pick those things up as it is to maybe pick up the drop and sudden scare of the endangered species. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't care. It doesn't mean you shouldn't feel something. It means when you see those numbers or hear those things about poaching and animals in trouble, that should light your fire. That should make you pick up your shield and your sword and want to be a warrior for wildlife, or whatever you can do, a voice for wildlife. Something in your heart is telling you that's important, and it's sad to see those numbers. So that means you need to take action to settle your heart as well and help those animals and wildlife. You could do things in your own area, like Corbin mentioned. Take a look at your own wildlife. Take a look at your own yard, your own neighborhood, your own parks, your own riverways, creeks, whatever it may be. And what can you do to help right there in your area? And if that's not an option or not something you can do, raising money, a simple $5 donation to a conservation organization can make a difference. Because if everybody donated $1, $2, $3, or $4, or $5, well, there's a lot of people on this planet, and that would be huge. If you could donate more, that's great. You can also raise awareness by doing a fundraiser, a bake sale, whatever it may be. Ask your friends and family to each donate a little bit, and then that's $10 all of a sudden. That does make a difference. Trust me, I work with conservation groups all over the world, and I know every dollar counts. They scrape together whatever they can with what they have, and if they can scrape enough together to get a camera that can take better imagery so they can track animals, or GPS units, or whatever it may be, it makes a difference. So I want you to hold on to that too. As Corbin said, we need to maintain hope for the future for wildlife, because having hope for the future for wildlife is also having hope for ourselves, and that is very important. So with that, I'm going to say I hope you are healthy and well this Saturday. Thanks again for joining us. Later today, I'll have this video up on IGTV if you missed the first part of it. And as always, please go ahead and follow Corbin and see what he's doing with his life, all right? So I will just end it with, have a good one, everybody.